Hello. So nice to see all of you on this blessed Sunday, October 18th, 2020. Can you believe it's already October 18th? 2 weeks away from Halloween. Thank you all for joining me today in honor of tonight's guest. And because I have a little indigenous blood pulsing through my veins, I'm going to take my prayer stick and I'm going to open with a First Nations prayer. Regard heaven as your father, earth as your mother, and all that lives as your brother and sister. Now, my second opening prayer and candle lighting tonight, brothers and sisters, and I want you to keep this gentleman in your prayers, okay? His name is Lewis, and he's a vet, just returned home. One of the many vets that our president is bringing back. So God bless him for that. But Lewis and I talked a little bit, and the thing that concerns Lewis is he's seen some things that he wishes he could unsee, and he's also done some things that he wishes he could turn the hands of time back and undo. And unfortunately, he can't do that, and he's afraid of judgment. So I told him there is no judgment on the other side, and in his heart and his soul, if he's truly repentive and repents for what's troubling him and making him feel like his soul has been darkened a bit, that he needs to get back in his Catholic or Christian routine that he had before he went off to war, and that is to first start with a good confession with a priest or a minister, pastor, what have you. Get back to going to Mass, receiving communion, find a nice Christian-based or non-denominational Christian-based church, get rebaptized. But I'm going to offer up a prayer for him and light a candle for Lewis tonight. I told him, welcome. He's at home here. WO Entertainment is one of my producers, and they're all about the vets. So here we go. Jesus said, "Are not 5 sparrows sold for 2 small coins? Yet not one of them has escaped the notice of God. Even the hairs of your head have all been counted. Do not be afraid. You are worth more than many sparrows." Almighty Jesus, forgive us our sins. Save us from the fires of hell. Bring all souls to heaven, especially those most in need of your divine mercy. Amen. Lewis, brother, hang in there. May the Holy Spirit continue to bless you and your family. Welcome home, brother. Your candle will burn until it burns out. And after the show, it'll stay here with me. After the show, it'll be put where all my candles are on display, burning. All right. This is Reverend Shawn Whittington's Paranormal Ministry. I'm your host with the ghost, Reverend Shawn, the Rev. Welcome to my haunted house, my very haunted house. And before I bring on my very special guest tonight, and I know that's why you all tuned in, so I'll get right to it. A couple of quick announcements. If you want to know anything about my wife and I, our ministry work, go to my website, www.ghost-b-gone.biz. That's the ministry right here in Las Vegas, Nevada, taking cases now. While you're there visiting, remember that my wife and I do not charge for our ministry work. So if you notice the button and you're able to do so, send in a small donation. I promise you it will be appreciated from the bottom of our hearts, and we will put it to good use, I assure you. While you're there, take a look at the page called Spiritual Advisor. In addition to being an ordained exorcist, I am also a certified spiritual advisor, intuitive coach, listener. If you're having issues of a spiritual nature, not necessarily attached to the paranormal, and you would like to make an appointment to speak with me, you can do that on that page. You'll also notice a page called the WSE course /book. I am one of the founding members of the Worldwide Society of Exorcists. And I have an offer running right now. All students enrolling in my 12-week college-level online course, Introduction to Spiritual Warfare, if you enroll before the end of the year, all of my fall students, when they graduate, in addition to receiving a stunning diploma and certificate of completion suited for framing, you would also get legitimate religious relics that I have received from the Vatican that have been touched and blessed by the Pope. And I'm only offering some of those. There's a limited amount that I've received, but I am offering some of those to some of my fall students. You can enroll in that course there at the website. If you just want to know more about the course, you can contact me, or you can go to the Worldwide Society of Exorcists Facebook page and learn a little bit more about the course. You'll also notice on that page my new haunted autobiography, God, Ghost, and the Paranormal Ministry. I think it was September was Children's Cancer Awareness Month. That whole month, I donated all proceeds from book sales to stjude.org and St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, Nevada. Year-round, part of the proceeds of every sale of every book goes to those two wonderful organizations. But I've decided to extend that offer through the rest of the month of October. So if you haven't done your good deed for the day yet, pick up a copy of my book. You can do it at Amazon, or you can buy autographed copies at the website. They come enclosed in a beautiful house blessing kit. And the beautiful thing about it is, until the end of October, all proceeds of every sale of every copy of my book goes to St. Jude's. And that is a beautiful, beautiful thing. If you've already purchased my book, you're a part of that support group. So God bless you. Now, word of warning. Some people say the book that comes from my home that I've autographed that have been sitting here, I have a little attachment. So buyer beware. The book is scary. It's been called the scariest book she's ever published by Annette Munich, owner of Stellium Books, my publisher. But don't let that scare you off. The book has a lot of good versus evil, where good does win in there. So if you haven't yet, pick up a copy of that. All right, guys. This lady you're going to love. And I can't think of anybody else more deserving to come on Paranormal Nation Radio. Reverend Shawn Whittington's Paranormal Ministry, WO Entertainment. We all welcome her. WO Entertainment, Paranormal Nation Radio, my producers. Mark on your calendar. We have a huge, huge Halloween thing coming up. 8 a.m. Halloween morning. They start trying to break the world record and going for 180 hours of straight, live, uninterrupted, on-air broadcasting. So support them through that. 8 o'clock or about 8 o'clock Eastern that night, 5 p.m. Pacific. I am going to have a special 2-hour Reverend Shawn Whittington's Paranormal Ministry that night, live from Scotland. We have Haunted Scotland and Scottish Paranormal live from a haunted castle that no one's ever investigated before. Live stream. We're going to hook up with them and have them on the show that night. Then hour 2 of that show, David Cook from England will be getting home from a live investigation. We're going to do evidence review. So Halloween night's going to rock here. Mark it on your calendars. I love this lady tonight. She is psychic medium, radio personality, paranormal radio host, shaman practitioner, shamanic practitioner, paranormal authority, paranormal experiencer. I know you guys are going to love her. Please welcome to the show the one and only Lucinda Laughing Eagle Morel. Lucinda, how are you?
Hi, everybody. How are you doing?
I look at your face. There's something about you that when I see you, I just I feel like you're Laughing Eagle and I'm Laughing Shawn. you just have a great aura about you and an energy about you and a big heart and a beautiful soul. I'm so happy to have you on tonight and introduce you to my Sunday audience. One of these days I'll get you on the Monday show and introduce you to my Monday audience. But let's get the most important thing out of the way first. I know
Okay.
you've got a big family. How is everybody doing through this terrible thing we're going through right now?
Um, Everyone's going well. We have a big change because we're moving, and so we are among the countless that are actually kind of leaving the big city for a little more remote area and space. So my husband has like a little hobby vineyard. He's Hungarian and he comes from like a wine region in Hungary, and so he makes wine. And we have a tiny little vineyard, and he's been making wine the last couple of years. And we just decided now with COVID and being home, we've kind of really just made the most of it. And it's actually been pretty great. I have three young sons, and the oldest just turned 13, and my middle one turned 11 on Friday. And then I have an 8-year-old. So I got three little boys. We're doing school from home. It's toggling. My husband and I both work from home. So the internet is jacking all day. But we spend a lot of time together now. And it's interesting when you get those little, as they're coming into these teenage years, with the oldest, there was a little trouble in middle school and he was having some struggling with a lot of the social stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And now that that's kind of gone and the social stuff is a little more online and controlled, he's actually doing better. So he has, they get to see the friends that they know. So they still have their friendships and their relationships, and we keep that going. And now we're planning this move to this. We're getting some acreage, and there's a vineyard, and hopefully I'll have a studio, because what I do, folks who don't know me, what I do is I have to kick everybody out. So there's epic Lego going on outside this window, and there's Play-Doh and Lego happening out there. I have to kind of kick everybody out and then set everything up. And then as soon as the show's over, I got to put everything away, and we're packing. And so it's kind of crazy. So I'm looking forward to actually creating like a little studio space for this kind of thing.
Is the wine going to just be for family and friends consumption, or might you be selling it?
Probably just family and friends. I mean, well, right now, let's see, we just bottled, and so we've got about 20 bottles. And so that just goes to friends and family. And we'll see how big the production is in this new space, because it's a lot more vineyard.
I'll keep you guys in my prayers. I know it's going to work out good. Things work out well for people like you, and I know it will. I'll keep you guys in my prayers. But that's great news. When you were telling me what you and your family have been going through, I remember when I think it was 3rd to 4th grade. We were in Cold Snake, New Jersey, and my dad got a job on the West Coast, but there was a year wait. But he had already left his former job, and so we had about almost a year of just dead time, and we ended up living in a high-rise downtown New York for a year, and I was homeschooled by my older sisters, and that was an experience that I never forgot. And many, 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 many years from now, all of you guys will remember it. As funky as this year was,
yeah,
I know there a lot of good is also coming from it, and families like yours will look back on this year with, I know it sounds crazy, but with a lot of fond memories, along with a lot of the crazy, scary memories too. But there'll be times that you guys will always remember, and that's going to be very cool.
I mean, I think that is, for me, that's the message of 2020. That's what all of this energy and time is about. And I've kind of been preparing for this time for the last few years, knowing that something was coming. I didn't know what it was, and it didn't quite make sense. And like all the messages I get, you think it's one thing and it turns out to be something else. So it's just really about preparing yourself spiritually and emotionally, and just getting into that space of like, okay, something's coming. What do I need to do? And be open. And for me, like, if I just take a position of gratitude and let everything kind of neutralize from there, that's kind of my foundation. And so when this was happening, I just thought, okay, we have to make the best of it. You always remind yourself how blessed you are. You always remind yourself how lucky you are, and you live in that space. And then we just try to make it fun, right? And we do what we can. And I say this knowing that a lot of people, in fact, we just got word that a family that we grew up with, I mean, they lost brother and father to COVID. I mean, within in less than 2 weeks. I mean, just this month, they lost brother and father, and my heart breaks for them. And so I feel like my place is to personally stay in that gratitude and that know how blessed we are, first of all. And then, because it's not happening to me, it's my job to support those that are going through that. Like, how do we be of service, right? And
absolutely.
And then if my thing is, like, whenever I get too stressed and whenever I start trying to get into the poor me, like, I got to get out of my head and just go help somebody else. I mean, that's the thing, just go be of service. If you can't help yourself, go help someone else. And it kind of settles you,
It's very therapeutic
Yeah.
to help people.
Yeah.
And I learned that over the past few years, big time. You do have a wonderful Facebook page called, I believe it's Lucinda Morel Energy Readings.
Yes.
Is there a website too, or just the page?
It's just the page.
Now, when people reach out to you there, I hear great things. Are you able? I don't really know how the energy reading thing goes. Are you able? Do you try and do like Zoom or Skype, or like you and I are here doing this thing on StreamYard? Do you meet with the people like that? Do you need to see them, or is the way you do it completely different?
So the way my readings work, I guess it's kind of funny. I just go with it. I get it and I go with it. So it's kind of not like, so I let people find me. So I really don't do any kind of advertising or anything. I have the page, I have business cards. A lot of it is just kind of word of mouth. People will find me. And my thing is, it's funny because from a shamanic kind of perspective, you will find that there's usually like these little hurdles that I use so that I know that once someone comes to me, I'm ready to help them. So the first will be, you got to find me.
Yeah.
And then you find me. And then this is where, for a long time, when I was doing this, when I started to do this work, I was really grappling with the idea of, well, I shouldn't be charging for this kind of thing, right? Because there's this weird, the money thing, and how does money play into what you do? And it's a spiritual service, and should you be charging? And it's interesting because I was with another shamanic practitioner. This is an ancestor of Geronimo, actually.
Wow.
And she said, and I was like, Mother, but we have to charge, and if we have this gift, and shouldn't we sell? How does that work? And she kind of stopped and looked at me, and she said, do you honor your ancestors? And I said, of course. And she said, well, don't you know that your ancestors worked so hard for you to have this blessed life and these gifts that you have? And she said, back in our ancestors' day, like she said, my parents and grandparents, who were the shaman of the tribe and the medicine people, they paid for nothing. Somebody came and cleaned their house. There was always food. Their job in the society and in the tribe was the community role was that they were the healer, and in return, the community supported them. So they didn't pay for a lot of things, right? And that was the exchange. She says, we don't have that now. So the way you honor your ancestors is that there has to be a monetary exchange or exchange of service, or like there has to be an energetic exchange to level the playing field.
Yeah.
So that is now kind of my second barrier. I try to price my reading so that it's not extravagant. It's not what a lot of other people charge, but it's enough that you might have to save, you might not, but you know what I mean? It just tells me you're willing to do the work, because from there, once a reading is booked, I'll start getting information. Sometimes it's physical, sometimes it's like a psychometry, sometimes I'm just driving and something will hit me and I'll have to like, whoa, okay, that's not mine. Yeah. You can feel this thing. And I collect all that information. And then when we finally have our session, we go over that kind of thing. A lot of times it's people, it's loved ones that'll come in. It's funny, you lit the candle. Who did you light the candle for?
This very nice gentleman that just came back from overseas. He's a soldier named Lewis.
Lewis.
And,
okay.
Yeah.
So check this out, Rev. This is so typical. My Uncle Daniel served 2 tours in Vietnam, and just this morning packing, look, I found his dog tags.
Oh, wow.
And that's why while you were talking, I like jumped up because I put them right here next to me in the little cabinet. So I found his little dog tags. Super cool. And Uncle Daniel was one of my first, he was a good lesson to me. First of all, in life, huge as heart, a total clown, funniest guy, and really kind of struggled with what had happened in Vietnam and the things he saw and the things he did. And so, I mean, of course, a vet through and through. And struggled when he came back. It wasn't easy integrating and then trying to, I can't even imagine going from like that. It's almost like you live 2 separate lives, right? And then you have to come back and try to integrate. You're not the same person. And when he passed, I got a visitation from him about a year after he passed. And the funny thing is, this was the fun Uncle Daniel lesson, is that I assumed in my head that when if I were to see Uncle Daniel in spirit, he would look like that handsome, like soldier with his little crew cut in his uniform that he had. He had this little short hair and his little beautiful uniform, and he looked so handsome and young, and his face was just bright, boyish. And I just thought he looked so handsome in that photo, which I have of him. And he came to me in a dream, and he was wearing like this white t-shirt and jeans, and he had a nice belly. Must have been like the way he looked in his 40s. He had like he had his long black hair, and I remember because this was 2004, because I had just bought a Honda Civic hybrid. And that's before everyone was like, is that electric? Like no one knew what hybrid cars were. And I had a dream that he was checking out my car, and he was like asking me questions about it. And I was just like, Uncle Daniel, like what, and I was having this conversation with him. And the thing that I learned from that was that our souls, if they visit, they come to you in the form that they were most comfortable, not the form that you were most happy with them, but the form that they were most happy with themselves and in their lives. And that was my fun Uncle Daniel. But he has sometimes when I get military personnel for readings or that come through for loved ones, Uncle Daniel will always bring them in.
Oh, that's cool.
And so he's become kind of for me, the safe guardian of soldiers, basically. So every time, even when it was my other uncle, Uncle Dick, he served he was in the Marines, and Uncle Daniel was in the Army, and Uncle Raymond was in the Air Force. They all served in Vietnam. But it's always Uncle Daniel that'll bring in the military people for me.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's really
Yeah.
beautiful. It is just. I was just speaking with somebody not too long ago. I had him on the show, and I just mentioned him earlier, David Cook, and he worked with a spirit that lived till, I want to say, middle-aged, but he came back as a spirit and haunts this location as he was when he was a little kid. And I find that amazing how some of the spirits, and I've seen spirits come back the way they looked when they passed.
Right.
It's a trip the way how that, and I don't have no clue how that works on the other side. I just, like you, I go with it, however they come at me, that's what I go with. But when I first started doing this show, I didn't see this coming, but so many people make my show for me. They hear who's coming on. They either know you or they research you a little bit and they're interested. So they start giving me questions. And me, I end up not getting to all of the questions because the show's only an hour long. But I do have some questions from fans and followers of yours. I'm going to get to those so that I can feel good. I can feel good about that. I do have to make a comment about you, though, because I was stalking you a bit for the last week or so to get ready for tonight's interview. And I love the car videos because you got to find a way to get away from the family and send your messages out. And so I noticed the videos you had of you being in the car.
That's me hiding. That's me hiding in the car.
I love that.
And every once in a while, seriously, Rem, every once in a while there's this. Because there's a kid you can't see on the camera. The camera ends here, like right here, there's a kid's face. And he's just like this in the window. And he's going, Mom.
They know not to interrupt you, but they can do that. They can do the silent mom. But they know better than to interrupt you. That's classic. Okay. One of your guys, and I think I know where this is gonna head, and you and I have this in common, and I don't even remember what you and I spoke about when we first met. I'm gonna touch base on that too. Fuzzy Fellas. What's the Fuzzy Fellas?
Oh, the Fuzzy Fellas. Is this from
Are we talking elementals? Because I've had elemental experiences. I believe in them. I know you do. Your heritage, your ancestry, and all of that. So it's big. And then somebody said, ask her about the Fuzzy Fellas. Okay.
Are we talking about, I'm going to call it the car video series. Of the car video series, one of them, interesting enough, I told, which ones? So I made like 3, and then Facebook wouldn't load, I think 1 or 2 other ones because it said I was like it giving me the, like, you're saying something inappropriate. And I was like, I'm talking about fairies. Like, I don't know what the algorithm was catching, but it wasn't letting me post my own video, which is why I should just get a website or something. Cause I'm getting kind of tired of getting policed by this kind of stuff, but it's Facebook's choice. Fine. It's your house. I'm a guest. Oh, whatever. So the fuzzies. Okay, there's a couple of fuzzies. I think the fuzzies that's being referenced is the visitors that I got before a reading. And so the story behind that, really quick for those that don't know, is I have a lot of protections in my house. And so the thing with the house is that if you have a malintention, you cannot get into the house. You're not allowed in the house. If your intention is neutral or helpful, or you need something, you're allowed in the house if your heart is right. I'll say that. And so one night I was putting my youngest, who's, let's say he's going to be 8, but he must have been like three or four, maybe, I guess. You know that age when you got to go lay down with them in the bed for a little while until they crash out, and then you have to like carefully sneak out and get out of the room. Okay, so I was doing that, and he had fallen asleep, and I was, crushed in like the side of the bed, like how the heck am I going to get out of here? And the bedroom door was a little bit ajar, and as I was just kind of poking out, and it's kind of dark, I saw this shadowy figure of two little fuzzball looking things. But think of, those little pom-poms and people put the little glue eyeballs on them. Okay,
Absolutely.
Picture that. Make that maybe about a foot and a half in diameter to about 2 feet tall. Something, I saw no kind of leg, maybe some little arms. And now make it really dark and dirty and wet it. And so, and the face was very small, and it did not look pretty. It was not anything pretty, but the energy was no malintent. And so it's this whole thing of like, at first you see something and it's jarring. And so you're kind of like, what the heck? And it said, you're going to see so-and-so tomorrow. And so-and-so was the reading, the client for the next day. Oh. And I said, yes. And then they just both went, whoop, and they disappeared. And I thought, all right. So I went to the client's house the next day. And to answer that for that other question, sometimes it's face-to-face, sometimes it's on the phone. I've had people, spirits, I had a soldier come to me and just tell me, you need to talk to my wife. And I'm like, who's your wife? And it was like, and then it was this whole thing, and it turned out it's the wife of a friend that I know, and I had to find her and give a message on Facebook. It was like a messenger thing. I mean, you never know, right? Every situation is different. So the next day I saw this client, and I gave her the reading, and the whole thing went, and just kind of off the cuff, I was like, all right, so these things came to see me, and apparently they know you. And she was like, and I drew them out. I said, this fuzzy thing, and I kind of described it, and she was just kind of like really staring at me. And I said, like, so she drew it and I drew it, and and then we both kind of did, it looks like this. And it was the same thing. And she goes, I know exactly who they are. And she recognized these little beings, and she recognized them as hers. And so,
what is in your professional opinion? There's so many different, I've seen some pretty crazy thing. I just lump them under the elemental umbrella.
Yeah.
I've seen some pretty weird things. Like, I don't know if I told you the story about the big tree in my yard that was going to fall on my house. Yes. And I got a lot of heat from people in my field for, acknowledging the elementals, but it is what it is. After you learn things, you do things, when in Rome. I can't deny that my wife brought home years ago this really weird rock from Hawaii, and we were having some really weird issues in the front yard till I noticed it, and I said, "What is that?" She said, "Oh, that's the rock I brought back from Hawaii." I went, "Oh my God!" So I was supposed to mail it back. I didn't, but I talked to a guy who's a holy man over in Hawaii. What I did was I put it in an area of my garden in the front of the house that's probably the most well-kept area, and it's got some shade and stuff. And I apologized for where it was at. I apologized for not being able to send it home. I offered it, I dug a little hole below, and I put some candy and peanuts in there, and some money and some holy water and some alcohol and tobacco, and and I washed the rock off really good and set it in this area of the garden. All our issues in the front yard that were weird stopped. But that whole area of my flower planter now out here in Vegas, you can hardly get anything to grow unless you cheat on the watering.
Yeah.
But I don't cheat. So about 3 days a week, 5 minutes a watering cycle is all I'm allowed, and I adhere to those rules. But that area of my garden grows beautifully. This thing is now surrounded by all these natural succulents and aloe, and the tree that was there is probably the biggest, healthiest tree on my land. So, is it my imagination? Partly, but I do believe all of that exists. And then you threw out the word fairy earlier. Do you believe that those are some type of fairy, or do you believe they have a different name, or are they all elementals? How do you feel about all that?
Well, so here's how I'm just categorizing it for me. So first of all, to the people who would criticize your even acknowledging them, I would say this: if it shows itself to you, then it is your job to acknowledge it. People might criticize it because it's never shown itself to them. Like, and I go back to this, folks, if you don't see it, more power to you, but I don't have the luxury of disbelief. When you're in it and you see it, from the most amazing things to the really, really scary, like take the breath from you moments. It's a luxury to be able to criticize and say, oh no, or that was just blah blah blah, or that you didn't do it right, or you were tired, or whatever excuse you want to make. I know what I've seen, and I've seen too much to go back. I can't help it. But what I'll say is that I have faith that if I'm getting it, I was made for it, and I was made to work with it or have that encounter and say, and kind of just own my own self and power and faith, and just say, what do you need? What's up?
Yeah. Well, it's like where that tree ended up falling. It was totally leaning towards my house. And when I prayed for them to help and just make sure it fell the other way, sure enough, I woke up the next morning. It had completely lifted and fell the opposite way, missing my house, my car, my neighbor's house, landing just in my yard, just short of the sidewalk, so the kids could still walk by. It didn't hit a kid or hinder the path. So even though we had the tree eventually sawed up and hauled off the property, that area where it was has kind of formed what, for lack of a better description, a little bit of a fairy mound there. And there's still a couple of big ass roots sticking out of the middle of the ground. My wife thought, why don't we cut those? I even spoke to the guy that comes and does our lawn. And he says, yeah, I wondered why you left those sticking there, and it's not my place just to cut them, so I mow around them. But that area, and my lawn looks like crap because, it's the desert out here, and I'm the only one dumb enough to still have natural grass. And I try to water and keep it going. But that area, without very much attention, the grass grows really nice there. And it's just a nice little patch of ground there. I don't want to rock the boat. I know that's where they were at. And I know that's where they're at now. And because, when the tree had came up, the hole that was left there, all those offerings I put down in that hole too. And then it was all filled in. And I didn't replant no grass there, but the grass grew back there on this little mound.
Yeah.
So I don't rock the boat. Superstitious? Yeah.
It's a lot of things. So, okay. So we can easily say the stump is working as a fertilizer. Okay, fine. But I can also tell you that my aunt, as a child, as a 4-year-old, used to see fairies all the time. And they were always around a stump mound that had all these flowers growing around it miraculously out of nowhere. So I can tell you that usually leaves, wherever there's some sort of sighting like that, it leaves an imprint. And I can also add that when we have a connection to something like that, that energy also leaves a nurture. It's an because we are nature as well, and you're working with something of nature, a natural element. So there's two things. Like, for example, the little things that came into the room, I would consider a nature spirit. Okay, so I would just say that's a nature spirit because it was a little consciousness or a little spirit of something or a little ghost of something, whatever you want to call it, right? It was an apparition of something. And so I would call that a nature spirit. Now, I saw something on the Pine Ridge Reservation with the Lakota that I will call an elemental being, because what I saw was not see-through or apparition or ghost. It was a little being walking. Wow. And that I think above everything has, and that is the video I tried to post on Facebook and it got shut down. It wouldn't go. And it was trying to cite me for something. And I was, what do you, like, you cannot post this content or something like that. But I was trying to tell that story. And that was the night that I attended a Lakota Sundance. Wow. And so I think that was probably like, yeah, I had that day we attended a Lakota Sundance, and then we went to the Badlands for a ceremony. And then that night around the fire, like in the forest, is when I saw the little dude, which is all I'll say because it didn't look anything like a human.
It's weird because this is how I categorize it. I do, the types of cases I work, it seems like that's all that comes across my desk anymore are the darker, more malevolent cases. But they behave two completely different ways. I get paranormal drive-bys here, or some people in my field call them recon blasts. And when I start getting these things happening around the house, it's different than the spirits that are here in visitation. I know that this is a red flag. I'm being warned that there's a case of my phone's about to ring and it's going to be another dark case. Get ready.
Yeah.
But they act two different ways. Like these things, they'll either show themselves to you or they won't. They're always usually really freaky looking, but they're the ones that mean good. They're friendly. At least they've been friendly to me. And the difference is they either show themselves to me or they don't. The ones that aren't friendly, that are of a malevolent nature or, God forbid, demonic, they never show themselves, but they lash out physically. And I have one of the favorite things for them to do is there's, I think, a very low level one near my front door. My front door is a really weird place. And very often, if I'm in the middle of working a case or I feel a case is coming, I'll get home from work. And as soon as I stick my key in the front door, I feel like something has bit my right hand. And I look down, I don't see anything. I let myself in the house. Sure enough, I'll be eating dinner with Sharon and she'll go, "What happened to your hand there?" And you can see what looks like a tiny bite mark and 3 scratches across my hand. That's if like maybe I smacked my hand into a cactus or something. And I know, and I go, but that's how I'm able to tell the difference between the two. If I see an elemental in the yard, I know it's not a demon. I know it's an elemental.
Right.
And he's showing himself to me for a reason.
The energy is so different. It's literally like if you had like a kitten and a rabid dog. I mean, it's, you're going to react your reaction is completely different,
I know there's people out there right now, like I've gone on record and said I've been blessed to be invited onto a couple of reservations here locally to work cases, and that's a big honor because they have their own holy people. But we're all humans. Sometimes things happen, and the holy person feels like they're in a little over their head here, and I haven't seen or experienced this before. Let me bring in somebody that perhaps may have experiences before. So not only was it an honor, but I did say yes to, and I attended, underground sweat lodge session, and yeah, I've admitted to people, yeah, I did take some peyote, and I saw some things that I know were real, and they appeared to me even though I was under the influence. And I know there's people out there right now that are listening to you and I going, these guys they probably took peyote before the show. The thing is there is another world. It's different from the ghosts,
Oh, yeah.
the other side of the veil, ghosts, spirits, angels, demons, all of that, and the netherworld. The netherworld is different. And I'm just now, after all of these years, since being a young boy, just now becoming to getting to a point to wrap my head around that, and I still have no clue
it's
what
so
this
cool.
netherworld is all about. And it's
I'll tell you.
well,
Hold on. I gotta get my iced tea here. Hold on. I'll tell you all about it.
Okay.
I made this great iced tea today. Okay, anyway. I love a peach iced tea. Okay, so in shamanic practice, let's compare shamanism to Christianity, because I'm a Roman Catholic, but I also do shamanic practice. Why is that? Well, we can go down a rabbit hole on that. It's like this. If we look at the church, a lot of people have a lot of hang-ups with the church. And to that, I would advise, do what you can to get over that, and don't focus on how it has messed you up, but try to ask better questions like, why would they have done that? So, for example, we are now in a time in 2020 where the energy is completely shifting. We are coming into a new time. What do I mean by that? A lot of things, but the key is, as human beings, this is the messaging that started coming in for me in about 2015. As human beings, we are starting to evolve our consciousness to match this new time. Okay, so now we're trying to level out this playing field. Way back in the day, religion said, don't touch that spiritual stuff. Don't go anywhere beyond. Here's our rules, our 10 commandments. Follow this, do this, and you'll be all right. Why? Because there weren't a lot of spiritual seekers out there, because everyone was just working on a farm trying to get food on the table and get their day done. And anybody that got an education was the clergy, right? The clergy were your dentists and your accountants and your, not just your priests, but they were called priests, but they were the only educated people in these little towns, right? All through Europe, right? So the goal was keep the people safe. How? 10 commandments. Just do this. Don't go to that other stuff. And then, look at this other religion that's talking about past lives and many lives and stuff. Yes, there's biblical reference to that. Bible took that. The Vatican took that out and said, don't worry about that right now. Do good now. Do follow these rules. That was done to keep the people safe. We are now at a time where we really have lost that intuitive instinct that we need. And so what's happening is there's a lot of fear-based thinking. Look at our politics, okay? I don't look at people's political party. I look at, if you're angry and if you're afraid, calm down, kick back, and let's remember we are all human brothers and sisters, and there's a lot of spin and a lot of stuff that wants to separate us. Why? Divide and conquer. Look at the big picture, people. I'm looking at your heart. I'm not looking at what you're wearing or who you're voting for, anything. I'm looking at your heart. And what's your heart telling me? It's telling me you're scared. And when you're scared, you lash out and you get angry and you go in there and you do this and this and this and this. There's a better way. We've done that as humans. We've already done that. That time is over. We need to start looking inside ourselves and get back to that intuition. And that is where a lot of the spiritual practices come back. So I'm saying come back to a faith, whatever that is. What shamanic practice does is, keep in mind, this is before Christianity.
Mhm.
The logic was, when you die, your soul will move to the other side. And they called it the different worlds. There was the upper world, the middle world, the lower world. Now, don't think heaven, hell. That's a Christian concept. But it's like different levels of consciousness, of spiritual planes. And it took energy to get there. And so what the shamanic practice was, and really it's just a lot of like, it's the same as meditation. It's the same kind of as prayer, in that you're getting quiet, you're going in, you're going on journeys, which is a lot of what the peyote was. And someone asked about my background. The majority of my native blood is Huichol Indian, and the natives of the Huichol, in the now like Jalisco area, Leon, Guanajuato, these areas in Mexico. This is the tribe that revered the sacred peyote. And they are the ones that basically saw the Europeans coming in their visions and took to the hills. So they're one of like the purest bloodline tribes, I think, in the Americas, because they weren't conquered. They hid, they fled, they decided they're just getting out of there. And then there's Navajo and Hopi. But and yet I've done a lot of ceremonies with Lakota. So, to me, it's all the same.
Yeah.
We're all human beings. And I say respectfully to my, to anybody, there is not a culture or a people on this planet who have not at some point been persecuted. The question and the challenge I throw down the gauntlet to everyone now is that, are you going to stay in this cycle of fighting and hatred and bitterness, or are we going to just move forward as a people? Because as we've come to this new time and a new world, and you can travel anywhere, and there's people that are of multicultural races, doesn't matter anymore. We are people of the world. We are no longer people of our cities and of our countries. We are people of a planet, of a world. And how you treat anybody anywhere is how I'm judging you. Not based on where you live or your country or your color or your sexual orientation. Show me your heart. That's what I'm looking at. Show me your heart. And so there's a term in shamanism called psychopomp. And that is when you gather your energy and it's almost like a push. And so what happens, and that logic is, your job is to navigate these different worlds in your journeys. And you're mapping it in your brain, just the way the shaman would map every plant around them. They used to know thousands of plants and the medicinal uses for them all over the world. And that was their job. Learn it, memorize it, remember how to get there. Because when you die, your spirit needs to know where to go. And depending on what you need to do, you can cross those multi-plane dimensions. What you don't want to do is get stuck in the middle world. So the other role of the shaman is to go into those dark places and go into that middle world and find those lost souls and pull them out. That was another thing one of my teachers taught me. She said, light workers are great, and there's a place for light workers. She goes, but we're shaman. We go into the dark places to pull people out. Your job is to not be afraid. You keep the love in your heart. You keep the light in your heart. And if you have that light, and for me, that's strongly based in Christianity, just because listen, in my darkest time, it was Jesus that I called to, and it was Jesus that got me out. And that's just me. And I know that for everybody that's different. And I'm not judging, and I'm saying do what works for you. But I've never gone wrong with my faith, and just with Jesus as brother, and my higher self, and my connection to God. Like that's me personally. Find what works for you. In what you were gonna say something? I'm rambling.
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not. I am so on board with everything you said, and when you were talking about that, I remembered that I'd been troubled for a long time. You talked about Jesus, and I was just watching a show the other day where the girl was telling her boyfriend they filmed from their phone this tornado that was bearing down on them, and she kept telling him to stop, turn around, drive back. He's all, no, I can get past it, and he was trying to floor it. She's all, honey, it's on us. And then the last thing she said, and later she confessed that she wasn't a religious person, but what do you think the last thing she said right before all you saw was just mayhem because the truck got flipped over and tossed on the other side of the freeway and down an embankment? She said, God, please forgive me my sins. I'm sorry for my sins. Honey, Jeff, I love you. Boom, the tornado hit. So we know.
Powerful.
We know who we're going to give ultimate praise to at the end there, regardless of who you are. Yeah. And I remembered when I had, for lack of a better term, I don't know if you call it a cougar or a mountain lion or what, but one sat in my lap that whole session when I was in that sweat lodge and actually crawled up a ladder like a human being out when I left. And then for the longest time, I would hear these, when I was getting these paranormal drive-bys at the house, it would sound like a feral cat in my backyard being ripped apart by wild dogs, or other big wild cats. And finally, after I thought, that happens over and over and over again. Sometimes even like when I'm doing my evening prayer, sitting right here and my face is 3 feet away from this big window that overlooks my backyard. Right in the middle of a intricate part of the prayer, I get that scream outside there. I've gone out there many times to see what's going on. I finally reached out. Something told me to reach out to that holy man at that tribe and ask him about that. And he was so disappointed in me that I didn't know what that was. All this time, I was fearing what was going on out there, but he said it was your cat. And I hate cats. He says, I shouldn't say hate, but I'm a dog man. But he said it was the cat that was with you here. He went home with you, and it's your spirit cat, this cougar, out there in your backyard that is going to battle against these demons that come into your backyard. And I've been in the backyard and been tossed by things I can't see in my empty pool, the deep end, which hurts. And I felt so bad that all that time I didn't put two and two together and knew what that was. And now it's like when I hear that, I know everything's going to be okay. And then now all of a sudden we have cats everywhere. Sharon has to bring home terriers from the animal hospital and take the doors off and leave them out front. And we got all these cats living in the front yard now. I'm a cat guy all of a sudden, even though I have 2 mastiffs, but that was meant for me to have a cat in my lap, because when I'm normally thinking about it, I'm not a cat guy. And that was another weird barrier that they were going to make me get through.
It's a spirit animal. That's your power animal, basically. Yeah.
Just incredible. Just incredible.
They represent.
Oh my gosh.
Owning your power.
6 o'clock.
Oh, we're done.
Well, I don't want to let you, I still have something I want to talk to you about real quick before I let you go. Okay. Carl, I apologize for running over, brother. I know you have your family and probably got to get to dinner, but oh my gosh, I have to mention a couple of things because people want to know. You and I met when you and Dr. Solheim, Dr. Bruce had me on Timeless Esoterica. People have read there's not going to be any more timeless esoteric. I'm having Dr. Bruce on my show tomorrow night, Vegas Supernatural. They want to know why, if you know why there's not going to be any more of those. They loved him, even though it was once a month. They loved him. Is there a chance they may come back? Should I just put Bruce's feet to the fire tomorrow night and let you off the hook, or?
Sure. Listen, I got the notice. So I just Bruce goes with his intuition, and his intuition just told him, like, you need to stop. Right, this is where you stop. And he's got a lot of things going on, so I think it was really, it was getting to be too much for him. So I think that's why he did it. But yeah, pepper him with questions tomorrow. He's gonna love that.
Oh my gosh.
Just come with like pitchforks and torches and like, you messed me up.
I love you. I respect you. I knew that I was going to want to just talk to you the rest of the night. There's I've talked to my producers before about possibly extending the show longer than an hour. And if I do that, perhaps there might be, I might consider a co-host down the road, and I can't think of a better one. I'll make a weird kind of maybe announcement tonight that I've thrown that fastball at you, and you caught it well. But I know you've got a lot of things going on to your family. You're in the middle of moving, all that. We'll talk more about that. But the most thing I wanted to talk to you about tonight, and I'll wait till I have you on again. I'll throw some open dates at you. It'll happen maybe even before the year's over. I have this list. I typed in witchcraft many, many years ago and printed out this sheet of a list of the top, 20 things that are considered witchcraft. And I find myself all the time advising people, don't do this, don't do that. Oh, you did that? Bad. And I know that I've been a hypocrite because sometimes I do some of those things in what I do. And I've even been called a hypocrite by a client or two, and I understand where they're coming from. Next time we get together, I want to talk about all these things that we advise people not to do that perhaps we still do, or we do versions of them, but it's all about our intent and how we practice that makes it different from what how they did it, which brought some funk down on them, and how we got to figure out how that change that funk around.
I can answer that, so I'll answer that next time. But yes.
God bless you.
God bless you.
Have a safe move. You, your family, your children are in my prayers.
Thank you.
Remain in my prayers. I will throw some open dates at you. We'll talk about the whole. I have to have a really good sit down with my producers and see if they're all for having a longer show for me, and then have to sit down and really talk with you about where you're at, if you might want to take on that challenge. I mean, if Bruce is going to say goodbye to you, not goodbye, he loves you, and you guys are tight. But if Timeless Esoterica is not going to be anymore, it's a shame to not have Laughing Eagle be more out there and seen more, because everybody that has reached out to me when they heard that I was going to have you on the show tonight, you're loved. You're very much loved. And
thanks. Wow, I had no idea.
Keep doing what you're doing. That's the best part. Keep doing what you're doing. I mean, people usually reach out to me, Shawn, why'd you do a podcast? You got a face for radio. Stick with your radio show. I mean, that's the kind, so there's two different kinds of feedbacks, but I love it all, and so we'll talk, but have a wonderful remainder to your Sunday evening. Thank you for spending an hour out of your busy Sunday to hang out with me and my Sunday audience. And I really, really appreciate it. God bless you.
God bless you. Thank you so much. Nice talking to you, Rev. And let's say, hang in there, Lewis. And don't forget Uncle Daniel's with you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We're praying for you.
God bless you, honey. Have a good night. Oh my gosh, guys. Yeah, I could have talked to Laughing Eagle, Lucinda Morel for the rest of the night. I got to 3 questions. I know so many of you are going to be upset with me that I didn't get to your questions tonight. I got to 3 out of probably my 20 questions, and I had this list of stuff I wanted to go over with her about. But she'll be back, I promise you. Maybe if the show goes longer and she ends up being my co-host, we might work something out. But And if you think her and I make a great team and the show should go longer and she would make a great co-host of mine, send me a message. Let me know what you think. It's all about you guys. I don't have a show without you guys. So God bless you all for tuning in tonight. Mark it on your calendars. Halloween, 8 a.m. Halloween starts the big WO Entertainment push to beat the record and stay on the air 180 hours straight. Let's all jump in and be a part of that. Remember, WO Entertainment's all about the vets also. That's why I'm glad I could welcome Lewis to the family tonight. Preventing vet suicide, Paranormal Nation Radio, my other producer, Carl Albertson. Couldn't do it without him. So thank you all so very much. My guest next week. Oh, you guys all know her and love her. You're going to, first time on the show, so don't let me down. The Happy Medium, live from Cape Cod. Susan Ahern will be here next Sunday night. And otherwise than that, guys, I'll be on Vegas Supernatural tomorrow night with Laughing Eagles para partner in crime, Dr. Bruce. We can find out why there's going to be no more show with the two of them. But have a blessed week. Stay blessed. Stop the violence. God bless you all. Good night, Harold. Rest in peace. Good night, Ernie. Good night, Bill. Good night, Dan. God bless you all. See you next week.